Let's do this. The Cult of Hockey podcast by the faithful. And for the faithful, I'm David Staples of the Edmonton Journal, and I'm here tonight with Bruce McCurdy. Hey, Bruce.
Hey, David, you're sounding a little worse for wear tonight.
Yeah, I just slept about 24 hours in a row before that game. I've got a wicked
Wow.
cold, but feeling a little better after the 24-hour sleep and after that great game from Mike Smith. Like, what a game from Mike Smith. He's the story of the game. I mean, how often, Bruce, and you're going to get to this in your good thing, so sorry for stealing a little of your thunder here, but
Go for it.
how often do you see a goalie make all the key defensive plays, or most of them, and then all the key offensive play in a game? It's pretty rare, pretty rare stuff. Good for Mike Smith. Just when, we were all down on him, and including me, you could say I even led the charge if you want. Um, and he came up with a game like that. Too bad the man is not healthy because he is a smart hockey player, a great hockey player, but he's not healthy. And his leg was hurting tonight. Anyway, he got the job done in a 2-1 victory over the San Jose Sharks. The grade A shots were 14-10 for the Sharks over the Oilers, and the 5 alarm shots were 7-6 for the Sharks over the Oilers. Bruce, I'll start it off with my good thing. And this game, it looked like San Jose was going to win it after scoring one goal. The Oilers could muster very little all through the game. They just were not able to create much on the attack until suddenly in the third period, we get this incredible play, which is, I'm just calling it up here. It's not marked. What happened on our game? It seems to have disappeared off our score sheet. That's odd. Anyway. I'm looking at our document where we track the grade A shots, and it's not there. It got eliminated somehow, deleted.
Yeah.
Oh, there it is. Okay, I put it back. So at 8:04 of the third period, and again the Oilers hadn't mustered. Bruce, they're behind 1-0. They had not had one grade A shot that entire third period until that moment. They're supposedly putting the pressure on. They only had 2 grade A shots in the entire second period. And then Darnell Nurse, who has been trying to force things all game, honestly, and making a lot of bad defensive reads, getting caught on 2-on-1s most of the game. A lot of iffy plays by Darnell through the game. He makes a great stretch pass. And then Nugent Hopkins makes an even better play in the center ice area where he wins the puck. I'm not sure who the defenseman was, but he seals off the defenseman from the puck in the center ice zone, and he bursts in 2-on-1, gets behind his defender, and gets in 2-on-1. He then takes a shot, which is blocked, and it's Nurse who then has charged up the ice again, trying to force the play, and this time it pays off because it's the biggest play. It really probably was the biggest play of the game. He charges in and he gets it over to Hyman. Hyman puts a cross-ice dart to Nuge, who slams it in the net, and it's 1-1. An absolutely crucial, huge goal that helps wrest victory out of the jaws of defeat. Great play by Darnell Nurse, Hyman, and Nugent Hopkins. That was my good thing.
Yeah, that was a huge thing. The Oilers were going absolutely flat nowhere at 5-on-5 in this game. And the whole third period, it was just melting away. The whistles weren't blowing. There weren't any shots. There was nothing happening on the, uh, on the play-by-play sheet. It was just sort of up and down, tick, 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 tick. And I'm thinking 1-0, 1-0.
Me too.
Fix auto, and it was out of the blue that, they got San Jose gets a power play, and this is bad to worse. And then what do you know? But that's the time that the Oilers actually find a way to strike. And puck really, it didn't settle down much for him. I mean, first Nurse fired a very good pass off the boards, and up into the middle, and then Nuge won that battle in the center of the ice, and that sort of created the odd man situation. But it would have gone nowhere had Nurse not followed all the way up from deep in Oilers territory to join, and he just kind of chopped at it, but he was able to keep the play alive, and he batted it over to Hyman, and he was able to keep it alive, and he batted it over to Nugent Hopkins, and he was able to bat it into the net. It never felt like the puck was ever settled. They were just kind of whacking at it, and they successfully whacked it 3 times in a row, and it wound up in the net finally after 50 odd minutes of waiting. Holy.
They weren't just playing the trap, Bruce. They were playing the moat. I mean, what a passive aggressive way to play hockey. It's evidently effective. I guess Tampa uses this strategy, and they've won the last 2 Stanley Cups. But man, the moat it's kind of a hideous defensive formation.
Yeah.
Three guys along the blue line, and then two kind of in the middle of the ice in the neutral zone. Uh,
Yeah, well,
anyway, it worked.
Tampa won the Stanley Cup, 2-0 win in the last game in the bubble here in Edmonton, and then with a 1-0 win in the last game in Tampa last year, so you could say it worked. I
Yeah,
also saw those games were barely fit to watch, but I guess that's beauty's in the eye of the beholder. When you win the cup, you probably don't really much care.
I didn't watch them, honestly. I didn't watch those games. Um, Once the Oilers are out of the playoffs now, I kind of lose all interest, if I'm completely honest.
I have never
Uh,
missed the cup clinching game since, well, 1962 was the last one I didn't watch because I wasn't old enough to be up late enough to watch it.
when I was a kid, I watched the NFL, the NBA, Major League Baseball. I don't watch any of it anymore. College basketball.
Right. Oh yeah, most of that stuff is
I just do not watch any of it. I watch Oilers
hockey.
hockey. That is it. Uh, Bruce, what's your good thing?
Well, I'm going to go with Mike Smith, the veteran cage cop for the Oilers, 40 years old, and playing his third start in 5 days, and clearly he's just keeping it together with duct tape and baling wire. He's constantly seems to be tweaking or favoring one limb or another with some awkward stretch or other lunge. He is anything but a pretty goaltender, um, but he was in the right places at the right times to make the saves tonight. 32 shots. The Sharks outshot the Oilers 32-24. As you said, 14-10 in grade A shots. And the five alarms, seven, Smith stopped 7 out of 7. Maybe one of them hit the post. Uh, but he had the answers for all those, including several, as in four five-alarm shots in the last 2 minutes of regulation, which we're going to talk about also in a minute. Does not belong under the good thing category, let's put it that way.
Oh,
And
jeez.
but the good thing was that Smith had their backs, and somehow he was able to keep those pucks out and down the stretch because that getting to overtime was critical. They had to get something out of this game, especially after they tied it up. And then uh, after all the saves in overtime, he made a nice snag of a shot by uh, was it the Timo Meyer probably let fly, or was it Burns? Burns let fly from the high
From the
slot. He was the
point?
trailer, yeah, and he came into top of the circle, and Smith snagged that and realized that Connor McDavid was behind everybody. All he had to do was drop and chip the puck out, and he executed it perfectly. He could not have put that puck on a tee out in center ice better than the time and place that he put it for McDavid to race onto it without ever slowing down and without giving Burns any chance to catch him from behind. And it was a beautiful, rare stretch pass from the goalie for for a clear cut breakaway in overtime. And I'm probably thinking maybe the best assist ever recorded by a 40-year-old goalie in overtime in NHL.
Well, his competition includes Jacques Plante,
Yeah,
but
well,
that
maybe.
then there might have been overtime in the playoffs there, Bruce. So you never
Well,
know.
maybe, yeah.
Never know. That was incredible play by Mike Smith.
Oh,
He's just, so on the ball. And
and
what
the
a
celebration was just golden. McDavid got into the corner and was staring all the way down the ice and pointed to the guy who made the pass, and they came out for this big group hug at the Oilers blue line. And you got to like it. I mean, that's the sort of thing where you see the spirit of the team being built. Where here is a game where they had a lot of adversity in that game. They didn't play particularly well in that game, and yet they still found some way to make the big play at the end of the game to win it. And this after Smith had made several big plays in the dying minutes to not lose it. So he's my good thing with the bullet. And
They love they love Mike Smith, those players. They do, I think. I think he's a huge part of that team, which is why I think he's still on the team at this point, as much as anything. Yeah, his injuries, like he was shaking his leg, and you're talking
uh,
about baling wire and duct tape. I think it was TD Force came out there, and I also think I saw Red Green with duct tape out there helping Mike Smith. Uh, yeah, he's got more duct tape than the average Canadian canoe. He's
yeah,
he's hanging in there though. That was a heck of a game, Bruce, from him. Okay, my bad thing. It's just I'm gonna go Howie Meeker on you here. It's kind of a smaller thing, although it's only a smaller thing because it didn't end in disaster, but
could
it's
have.
kind of some fundamental plays that didn't happen. And it was right after the Oilers had scored their tying goal. This fantastic play, and there was a letdown. There was a letdown. Duncan Keith gets the puck, and he makes a decent play. He just fires it around the boards to Evan Bouchard. And all Evan Bouchard has to be doing is be against the boards. It's a fundamental play. Be against the boards with your skate against the boards, facing forward. So
Mm-hmm.
when you get the puck, either you get it on your stick or off your skates, and you pass it forward. I don't know what he was doing. He was kind of floating around, floating around, and the puck goes right by him. There was no
Behind
reason
him.
behind him. And there was no reason for that to happen if he just made the simple fundamental play of being against the boards. And he wasn't there. And it goes right to, I can't remember, the immortal Matt Nieto, who whips it into the slot to Nick Bonino, who then makes a nice move on Smith and puts it off the goalpost or crossbar. Smith made actually a really good save. Like he didn't save the play, but because he stretched out so
Forced.
far, it made Bonino. Now,
Yeah.
after the second fundamental mistake, though, was after Duncan Keith made his pass, he watched his pass. So instead of you make the pass, it's going to the other side, skate to the middle of the ice, skate to in front of the net. That's the other fundamental play you should make as a defenseman, and he didn't make that. So just two basic plays. You know, Keith's was it was more of a bang bang play at that point. I blame him less than Bouchard.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them have to do better. In particular, Evan Bouchard, who otherwise was, he got beat on one breakaway, but Bouchard was okay in the game. But those two plays, I mean, it's hard to get past them, like getting beat wide on a breakaway chance and allowing that incredible 5 alarm scoring chance shot right after your team has tied it up 1-1. Could have easily been 2-1 San Jose and you lose because you made that fundamental error. And I found it very frustrating, as you might be able to tell.
Yeah, it was odd that he didn't try and get a stick back there either. Like the pass came around the boards hard, and it was like he didn't try for it. Like his skates weren't there, and he didn't like swing and try and get a stick on it. And the guy took the puck and he just walked out of the corner, and without much harassment from Mr. Bouchard.
Yeah, well, Evan Bouchard is, he's an interesting player. I noticed I was looking at the on ice numbers, and he's got pretty good on ice numbers, which a lot of people put a lot of weight in. He's got
Yeah,
good on ice numbers. He also has the way we rate the game, Bruce, with grade A shots for and against. He's actually doing fairly well this year. He's he's giving up a lot, but he's creating more than any Oilers defenseman we've seen since we've started tracking this. He really creates a lot in the attack. His passing is superb. He's got to get better on defense, though. He just has to. And, he's a rookie in the NHL.
right.
He
Right.
probably will. He's playing in the top four. Are they
Mhm.
playing in the top four, or has
Oh,
Kulak and Barry moved ahead of him?
Bouchard played 21-14 tonight, and he led the team in even strength ice time at 1941. He and Keith were 1-2 at even strength tonight on the team. Had a nurse, ahead of CC, ahead of everybody.
Oh, there you go. And what did Kulak?
This game,
Kulak 1605 and Barry
18-15.
8.
Nurse had a few ticks more overall because he played a bunch of time on the penalty kill more than anybody else. But,
Yeah. Okay, so he played a lot and he was in tougher situations. I thought Kulak and Barry were easily the best defense pairing. They kept a clean sheet between them. They didn't make one major mistake on a grade A shot against all game long. They're really playing well. They've got really good chemistry. Of course, it really makes a difference for defensemen whether they play bottom pairing or top four. The
right.
second you're playing top 4 minutes, maybe not against a team like San Jose, but generally speaking, second you're playing top 4 minutes, it's considerably more difficult. And when you move to the top pairing, it's even, considerably more difficult than the second pairing. It just keeps getting harder. So for a player like, Nurse, who typically plays the toughest and top minutes, you have to cut some slack in that regard because of it. But I'm liking what I see from Kulak and Barry. I wouldn't be surprised to see them playing maybe some harder minutes as this goes along if they can continue to play so well.
Yeah.
Uh, your bad thing, Bruce.
Yeah, my bad thing is a sequence plays kind of like the one you just described, but they all happen in like the last 2 minutes in the quarter of regulation. And this is a situation where, I mean, you talk about game management, and we talk about the officials in game management, and we kind of spit it out. Uh, but your players need to manage the game. And when you're playing in a tie game, as the clock is winding down, it is of utmost importance that you don't screw up more than anything else. You can go for the goal if a great chance presents itself, but the problem is that a goal you give up in that situation in the last couple minutes of the game that almost certainly cost you the game is costing you essentially 1.5 standings points because it's costing you one right away plus the 50% chance that you might have won in overtime. Whereas if you score late in regulation, well, now you've got 2 points, but you already had one plus the 50% chance you're going to score in overtime. I mean, just the playing the straight numbers, it's 3 times more costly to give up a winning goal in the last minutes of regulation than it's of value to the team that scores it. Just because it's a screwed up point system by the NHL that I rail against constantly because it sucks and because it's very poorly thought out. But what it means is that both teams really should, in a tie game, play ultra conservative in the last minutes of a tie game. And Edmonton looked like they were trying to, and then anyway, the chaos started with Evan Bouchard. And the Oilers actually had a pretty good shift in San Jose zone. They had the pressure on. They were cycling. They weren't really getting shots. The puck went back out into the neutral zone to about Edmonton's blue line, and Bouchard went to retrieve it. And right in front of him, Jesse Puljujarvi skated off on the line change. The other two guys were trying to come off on the line change because they'd been out there for 40 or 50 hard seconds. And Bouchard decides this is a good time to really surprise him with a dart on the counterattack. And he wheels and he fires a pass to nobody, and now it's icing. And not only is it icing, but two of the guys that have been out there for 50 seconds are not allowed to go off now. So now you got a face off in your end, tired center, tired winger, and sure enough, lose the draw, scramble ensues. Now, to his credit, Evan Bouchard made the defensive play to clear what looked like it might have been a certain goal. This was the play where Smith actually hurt himself by overcommitting to a shot that kind of slid into the slot. And Bouchard got a stick in there, or else it was probably going in the net. So we'll credit him for that. Um, but it was a situation of his own making, and it was just by poorly thinking through the situation. And then about 30 seconds later, Darnell Nurse, uh, I'm drinking milk because my ulcer. Darnell Nurse, he gets the puck inside his own blue line and he slowly, leisurely skates directly towards his own goalie with Timo Meyer, San Jose's like best player, right on his tail. And Darnell is la-di-da, here he comes up. And then Meyer just goes in and he rams a shot on net from like 6 feet out, right off a Nurse's stick. What is he thinking? Like, if you're going to skate slow and cough the puck up, maybe at least take it into the corner or around to the boards or something rather than straight at your own goalie. Smith stopped that one. And then there was another shot that Cece was burned on that we also called a grade a 5 alarm shot. And then in the last 30 seconds, there was one where the puck came out to the right point. Evander Kane was slow getting over to cover the outside shot, so it got through. Duncan Keith was slow to cover. What was that? Thomas Hurdle? That
Yeah,
was right in
no,
front
it
of the
was
net.
Couture, Logan
Oh
Couture.
no, it was Logan Couture, Oiler killer Logan Couture. If this had gone in, David, I would have lost it. And he had 2 cracks at it. He got a free tip and then a free rebound of the tip because Duncan Keith wasn't covering him. And Logan Couture got credited with 2 shots, each of them from 4 feet in front of the Oilers' net in the last 30 seconds of a tie game. I mean, that is close to inexcusable. And somehow Smith got his knee down and made the save on the second one, and they were able to limp literally to overtime. But just the whole game management thing, that kind of stuff just makes me nuts. Like, get your shit together. Play, just do the simple stuff and do it right and pay attention to detail. You've got to. Your playoff lives are at stake here. And they got through that, and then they got the win. So, hey, it's all good, right? Everybody's happy, but I have a feeling that the video room tomorrow might have a little bit of a few of those clips of the plays that I just described, and coaches a little bit in guys' faces saying, "What were you thinking?"
All right. Yeah, it wasn't good. Keith, Duncan Keith on that one, that last one with Couture, he was kind of out playing the shot, but you got to block it then because when he didn't block it, Couture tipped it and then he got the rebound, and that rebound was a really dangerous chance. Could have easily scored.
I was sure it was going in. I'm still more, I would say better than 50% chance he puts that in if you give him another crack at it.
Yeah, they
Oh, that
almost
was a
scored on
5 alarm.
they almost scored on the Californian, Bruce. The Michigan is that thing from Zegras, I guess, but I like the Californian is how that's the bread and butter of NHL teams like the San Jose Sharks. The shot from the point that's tipped in or rebounded in. Um, okay, let's move on to our numbers. My number was gonna be 0 for Zach Cassian's total hits this game.
Zach Kassian's total impact on this game.
Yeah, but I'm gonna move to something more positive than that because it's a win. And since Jay Woodcroft took over, Bruce, I just saw some people talking about this on Twitter, and I confirmed it myself by looking at the stats. The Oilers have the most points in the NHL.
Wow.
Not the highest points percentage, but they have the most. They're tied for the most points, 38 points in 27 games.
Hmm.
With the Boston Bruins and Colorado Avalanche, they also have 38 points each. The highest points percentage is the Florida Panthers with 35 points in 23 games. But the Oilers are at a 704 winning clip since Jay Woodcroft took over. They're one of the top 5 teams in the NHL right now since Woodcroft took over, with the Bruins, the Avalanche, the Flames, and the Panthers. So that's pretty good company.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Kind of encouraging. We see the flaws with this team, but it's got a lot of strengths too. It's got a lot of strengths, and one of that is the ability to score goals, and they got a couple goals tonight when they needed them. What's your number?
I got Cat Stevens here tonight. Anyway, my number is 2. That's the number of goals that Edmonton scored tonight. That's the number of points Edmonton runs out of Dodge with after that game. And that is also 2 for second place, baby. Second place in the Pacific Division. Oilers passed Los Angeles Kings tonight with a little help from their friends Calgary Flames, who beat LA in regulation last night in a nail biter of a game. And now we have Edmonton with 87 points in 71 games. LA with 86 points in 72 games. And so you have Edmonton with a game in hand and a 1 point lead, but playing LA in their next game. So the next game gives them an opportunity to put a little space between them, or alternately, it closes things down again. And they are tied in games played with Vegas, but have a 5 point bulge on them, with both teams having won their last five straight. So the playoff race is really heating up when you see stuff like that. And anyway, that was not the prettiest of games, but you take those 2 points and run.
Alrighty. I like it. That's all you needed. Yeah, it wasn't a game I wasn't expecting it, Bruce. I was not expecting the Oilers to get those 2 points. It just felt like a loss to me. I wrote that in the early in the
Very
first period.
early, and I was tasting the same thing.
Yeah, just so lifeless, and they're missing Draisaitl, Mike Smith's in net,
Big time.
so I wasn't optimistic. But sometimes, sometimes a goalie steals a game. Hasn't happened a ton for the Oilers this year, but it's happened a few times, and man, did they need it. They go into the Kings game, and the Kings are a tough team, even with all their injuries. Like even without Drew Doughty, their top D man, they've got some good young defensemen on that team, some good young talent, and they're kind of again, I was wondering how they were winning all year, and now I know they're a good team. And Anze Kopitar is a fantastic two-way hockey player. I remember the last game against the Oilers, he pulled one right off the goal line, stopping Draisaitl from scoring. And that's the kind of player he is. He really is a 200-foot player, and just will do whatever it takes to win. So they have players like that and that kind of leadership. So it's going to be tough with the Kings.
They
See
got
what
two of
happens.
those guys. They got Kopitar, and then they've got Philip Danault,
Yeah,
and that's their 1-2 centers. And you'd be hard pressed to find two better, well, let's say defensive centers, or 200-foot centers, if you prefer, on any team in the league. Guys that are that accomplished on the defensive side of the puck, and so potentially kryptonite for the Oilers with their two big gun offensive centers. I mean, are potentially an epic battle between the two teams should they meet in the playoffs, with personal rivalries between those main guys.
wonder when Doughty's back. He's such a tough player.
Yeah, he's out for a while, but I heard that he might be back for the playoffs if they make him, was one thing I heard. But the injury reports, that used to be very precise. They say so and so has got a bruised shoulder and he's out 2 to 3 weeks, and now it's like he's either playing the next game or he's not, and that's all the information they give you.
Yeah, upper body injury, week to
Indeterminate.
week, indeterminate. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, they do miss him. But that guy, Sean Dursey in particular, has caught my eye. I saw LA play
He's a good
chunks
player.
of four games last week. They played the Oilers, then they played Calgary, then they played Winnipeg on Hockey Night in Canada, and they played Calgary again. So all of the games were televised. So I got a taste of them, and I came away with a strong positive impression of that team. That
Yeah.
that they're really fighting hard, and they've got it going on. So they will be no pushover on Thursday or Saturday night, or Thursday night subsequent.
Bjorn Fott looks like a good defenseman. I can't remember who else they had there, but he and Dursey stood out for me, especially Dursey. Just
Yep.
really smart. What would you have given? I've got my game grades up. What would you have given Mike Smith, Bruce, in that game?
In this game, a 9.
I gave him a 9. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, he played a great game in net, as far as I'm concerned, and then absolutely a bonus point for that pass in overtime. Primary assist, stretch pass, breakaway to McDavid. I mean, that's almost worth two, you know. And so, yeah, I mean, no Mike Smith in this game, no 2 points.
That's exactly how I put it. Great game and a bonus grade for setting up McDavid's goal. So
Yeah.
we are of like minds on this. Bruce, we'll leave it there. Thanks for talking tonight.
All right. Thanks for listening, everyone.
And in the meantime, and in between times, this has been another edition of the Cult of Hockey podcast.